Good afternoon, Lord's House of Prayer. Wow, do I sure miss you all. And I am praying and believing that we will be able to meet soon. I'm thankful for the technology we have, but nothing replaces getting together in each other's presence. I gave a challenge on Monday that to get in your word and read one chapter of Esther a day, which would bring us to chapter 5 for this week. I'm going to share 2 more videos today, one at 3 o'clock and then one at 6. And I ask y'all to pay attention to that, especially to the 6 o'clock video, where I'm going to give everyone in the Lord's House of Prayer City Church a challenge. So what did I learn and want to bring to you, encourage you today in the first video? In chapter 2 of Esther, we know the story, but there's King Xerxes is looking for a new queen. And so he makes a decree in all of his land to get the most beautiful women in the land and bring them to him. Esther, a Jew, was one of those beautiful women chosen to be fit for the king. And I want to pause for a moment and remind all of us that we are chosen by the king. He chose you and he chose me. And in this hour, we've got to remember who our king is and that you and I have been chosen specifically for his good pleasure. We keep on reading on, and it says that the king entrusted a hired man, his name was Haggai, to take care of all these beautiful women and make sure they were like presented to the king to be like the best they could be. And we learned that Esther had favor with Haggai. And so much so that he gave her special privileges that even helped her in what God had planned for her. And I want to remind you and pause that you and I not have only been chosen, but we've been given great favor in the sight of man. And God grants us that favor. You and I have favor not just with God, but with man. And we keep going on, and we learn that this favor not only applied to Haggai, but to all around Esther, including the king. And the king, we learn, chooses Esther to be his queen. We have favor, and we've been chosen by the king. We have the most distinct privilege to have the king's ear. We can approach the king intimately. We have his ear. And that is super important. And we need to take advantage of that. So you're chosen, you have favor, and you have the king's ear. And I'm going to tell you, in the hour we live, that's the most important thing. Now, we know that in chapter 2, it goes on and says, Esther had a cousin. His name was Mordecai. And Mordecai adopts Esther because her parents had passed away years before. So Mordecai, though they were cousins, Esther was more like a daughter to Mordecai. And Mordecai was an official of the king. And one day, in verse 21 to 23 of chapter 2, you'll learn that Mordecai was at the gate working, and he heard of a plot to kill the king. Now, if you had information that was really important, that needed acted upon, who would you go to? Somebody who had favor with the king. Well, Esther is the one who had favor. So Mordecai goes to Esther and says, Esther, this is what I've heard, and I'm telling you, tell the king, because his life depends on it. Esther, who has chosen, who has favor, goes to the king and says, this is the report I've heard from someone important to me, and you need to look into it. The king does, finds out it's true. He stops this evil plan, and he executes the ones who were planning it. Now, I want to pause again. Not only you're chosen, and you have favor, and you have the king's ear, I want to tell you, we are called to be intercessors. We are called a royal priesthood to go before the king. We are the ones who have the king's ear. We in our communities, I'm telling you, in life, I've talked to many of you, and there are a lot of people we're around who are afraid and concerned with good reason. But if we have favor and are chosen and have the king's ear, we have the ability to be the peace and the joy and the ones who have favor, where people can go to us and say, hey, this is my concerns, and this is this, and that is this, and I'm fearful. And we can go, I'm going to pray with you right now because I know somebody who can give you peace. I have done that a few times this week, and everybody that I prayed with has been so comforted. Why? Because I've been chosen and I have favor and I got the king's ear. And I represent him, and so do you. So I want you to take courage in that. You're chosen, you have favor, and you have the king's ear. People will come to you because they see something about you that they know is safe. And when you reach out to them and pray for them and love them where they're at, as one who's chosen, who has favor and has the king's ear, watch what God will do. Stay tuned for 3 o'clock, and there'll be another video.